Hi, welcome to the podcast. This time we have a really cool thing. It actually came about really quickly because I actually just recently met Tobias. But we'll talk a little bit about that during this. But let's start with you, Tobias. Give a quick presentation. CEO and founder of Stelia.
CEO and founder of Stelia. So Stelia was an initial R&D concept which started in 2020, focusing on how we thought the world would need to interconnect with each other in the world of AI. So redeveloping all the technologies required for AI to talk with each other on a global scale.
That's really big. That's a big thing.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's a big aspiration to have.
Yeah. It's an enormous challenge when we think about the world that we've grown up with for the last 35 to 40 years is based around the internet and a very small set of technologies. We look at, we asked the question when my smallest little daughter is my age, what will the technologies be that underpin her world? Yeah. And it's unlikely to be what we grew up with for the last 35 or so years.
So that's a good way to start. Because before this started, we talked about the difference between generations in terms of how the new generation, well, the ones way before us, because I'm kind of old, is that the way that people used to use Google and now they're using ChatGPT. Yeah. So your 5 cents on that, that change, that's actually a massive thing because it really changes the feedback we get from the internet. The way we use technology, right?
It changes the entire profile of how we interact with technology. Yeah. We are being given, some would regard smarter answers, or more tailored answers. Or more maybe censored answers, depending on the input window that you give. But the technology shift is really interesting. Interacting through the internet, through the medium of a GPT window, rather than a search engine, is an entirely different experience. And that's really starting in the academics that are in university or higher education currently.
So you can't really compare the two?
Completely different.
Why is that?
The whole thought logic behind Google having an indexation of sites and best matching you with a predefined list of results towards dynamic content being generated for you from an AI model. They're completely different approaches towards serving data.
Yeah, so for people to understand is that it's really from Google, you get indexed answers, but you get several picks. You can pick the one that you think is the best one, while in ChatGPT, you kind of get a predefined one answer, unless you ask it for. If you prompt the AI correctly, you can actually get to the kind of same answer, but you need to be really specific in your prompt.
Yeah, or it gives you 3 answers that are very close together. So you're not being given the opportunity to view the 21,000 search results for Ducati. It's much more challenging when working with ChatGPT. You need to provide it with the opportunity to serve you more answers.
All right, so we'll get back to that because I think it's a really interesting topic. But I just want to roll back because this is how I like to kind of start the journey for everybody to kind of know you and me and where we are. So, a question I always ask is, what was the first experience you had with technology where you thought, oh, wow, that's pretty cool?
This is really sad. So 11 years old, building printer drivers for LNX at the time. Yeah. So I started my journey in technology very young without really knowing what I was doing on a site called Rent-A-Coder, which sounds awful now. But Rent-A-Coder was a website where you used to be able to post a task, like Fiverr.com, but 25 years ago. And you'd be able to bid for projects. And I made, I think, 20 quid from rebuilding a printer driver for LNX on a Pentium 1 laptop. And I think at that point there, that was the first time for me where I was able to take a challenge and create a meaningful outcome from doing something and seeing the results of that as well. I think for me, that's the first time I can link back to actually doing something of meaning in development.
And that took you to where? That was kind of like the foundation for your journey in your career? Or?
Yeah, so I left school young.
So did I.
Yeah, I left. I just about got an education. I left. It wasn't for me. Didn't sort of fit who I was. Varied career path. But I spent 5 years working for the British government in various departments of defence and counter-terrorism and counter-defence abroad. And then I ended up running 5 companies in technology. Built 4, sold 4 so far. All in networking, communication, hyperscale network design, software.
So how do you explain that career path? Because I mean, to normal people, that's kind of wild.
I was very fortunate to have a few opportunities that I think sort of manifest when you're in that position. So I went to go and work for a company that was designing embedded comm baseboards for the MOD, and I ended up running the software integration team of about 480 developers in 3 countries, relatively young, because I understood software and hardware at a time when not many did. Had lots of experience working with Linux at the time. That helped me massively in kernel development. And then I ran that team, then worked outsourced for BAE, then Thales, then Daventry, then Thai Controller. And that exposure to those governmental entities pushed me into a government career for a short while. I realised quickly that working for government really wasn't for me. So I'm better off building companies. And the first company that I founded was taking some of the early counterintelligence, security and networking knowledge and building a product that was eventually sold into a company that was Enter before it collapsed. So all of my career so far to date, and lots of the founding knowledge that started Stelia, has come from technology, building network companies, building hyperscalers.
How did it come about with Stelia? So where did that idea come from?
So it really was just after my son was born in February 2020, at the start of lockdown. We were at the transaction point of a previous company, and we had a few people that were around that transaction and looking at future market challenges, really saying that we've done this journey for the last 5 years, building this hyperscale network business. What's going to exist in the future? Do we think this is just going to be bigger, faster, or bigger, faster? So the initial impetus for Stelia was an R&D thesis. It was saying what's going to be the future. We got 6 months of involvement from Meta's deep tech team in the US. We got them involved, who are very progressive.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, they do a lot of knowledge sharing. Meta are an unusual company that they will open source and share lots of their internal knowledge and things they're doing too. So that gave us a leg up. We took that and worked with Broadcom at the same time, who were thinking about their own developments. And the first thesis point for Stelia was that. We had 100 companies come and work with us initially, people that we knew, contacts that we had, people in the NHS and retail and mathematical sciences and streaming and media companies. We invited them all to come and explain to us what they thought their view of the world was going to look like and how technology was going to change their business fundamentally over the next 10 years. And it was quite clear that lots of those companies were pushing the limits of what was possible, not just in terms of hardware and software, but they were trying to redefine how technology changed their company, not just use what was on offer. And that first problem-solving piece for the first 18 months was what Stelia was doing. We literally set up an R&D thesis team to go and understand those problems.
I mean, that's really the implication of, where all of this technology is going to take us long term. I mean, who can do that kind of analysis?
Yeah.
If you and I have known what will happen to the GPU, we'll be mega super rich, right? Because we'll buy the stocks of where it's happening now.
Yeah. I mean, you can see the direction of travel now, right? You can see the major gated milestones of what's happening, even with the major vendors. And there's sort of all this interim stuff happening, but you can see that the major milestones happening. I mean, we've got a position in Stelia where we think we'll get to sort of the human-machine AI interface, which would eventually happen. I don't think we're a million miles away from that. Some of the clients and companies we're talking to are already thinking about that. So we're aware of where we think the ultimate end will be for AI and the human-machine interface within the next, we think, 5 to 10 years.
And that is?
Completely embedded human AI interaction, interoperability. We can see from the way that the largest, most powerful AI clusters are being used is to understand human decision making better. The next step is to integrate that machine learning capability with the human factor, with general open knowledge. Then you have a super built human.
So the difference between the AI brain and the human brain is what?
The way it rationalizes decision making and the access to third-party information that it has.
So it's back to what you initially said about the what comes back to a prompt into ChatGPT is that the answer that comes back is very close to the middle answer.
Yeah, but you have a particular position on something, and it's different for humans to have objective opinions about things. But if you're agnostic to a point and you're being fed information from a third-party engine that was giving you alter positions that are fully qualified and fully thought out and costed, that decision rationale is very interesting for different industries, not least things like defense. So it's how you harness, I think, AI as opposed to how we make it smarter. I think the fundamentals are kind of there. But this is the 1996 position, which is that people believe at the moment that we're in around 1996 of the internet, but in AI. So we've got 56K at home. We haven't really got home broadband yet. Email is just starting to become mainstream, but we're really not on the huge uplift trajectory yet. And if we believe that's where we are right now with AI, then what comes next is worlds changing. And all the skeptics that didn't think that the internet would change the world, well, let's see what happens with AI.
Mobile phone, internet.
Our entire world,
Yeah.
everything we interact with on a daily basis is somehow powered by something that uses the internet now.
And how should, I mean, not being a critic, but how should the normal person kind of, what would be the take on AI? It's kind of like saying it's just you give yourself superpowers, basically.
I think we talk a lot to people that have been on the skeptical side of what AI means for them. And, you know, in the UK, we'll try and bring that back to Tesco Club Card in 1982 and think, actually, you know, when did machine learning actually really start? And did you know that it had started? And AI is not this great big slap in the face. It's much subtler than that. It's integrated into things that we are using day to day. So that gradual transition, I think, is more comfortable for people than being told that something's going to take over the world.
Yeah. I actually came to, I mean, we're both are very fond of Ducati as a brand, right? So we, I mean, great motorcycles. You'll hear about that in another podcast. But I mean, I came to think about yesterday saying when will the AI, when it will be artificial that will have like an AI driving the motorcycles in a MotoGP race. And I said that won't happen because you will take the human factor out of the racing, which is what gives you the edge. Right? If you just want to drive a track really, really fast without doing any errors, then you can just leave it to the AI. But that takes the human factor out of it. That's a good example, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look at things like the Nürburgring lap times for the fastest cars. The window they're in is so narrow, but 100% of that is the human factor. All the cars in the top pace can almost all do the same lap times, but the delta factor is the human factor behind it.
So where does it end? I mean, if we take sports, so if in football, if you just let the AI or artificial intelligence take over the role of the referee, which means that then a match will be perfectly ruled, right, with no errors, right? That the AI will see everything. Or in MotoGP, is that where's the boundary between analog and digital? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I've had this conversation with some of the vendors. That's very much the referee with a belief system of that vendor's position. So if you have a digital referee, for example, they've been pre-trained with a set of facts that they believe to be true.
Yeah.
And there's no room at all for ambiguity. There's no room at all for interpretation or the lead up to that. You know, it's like in rugby, you see a high tackle, yes, but you don't see the fact that the player is high because another player's tripped them up. There's more contributing factors to that. And if we analyze events as AI would do as the specific event, not the whole lead up to it, we can often be caught in taking things out of context. So we're always seeing things like VAR with football. There's always going to be a space where we are making decisions behind the scenes or influencing things like sport betting, using machine learning or AI technologies. Will we eventually get to a point where all sport, as an example, has got an artificial intelligence referee? I don't think so. Because I think, to your point, that takes away the human element.
It's like sitting in front of your PlayStation, whatever, and like play a football match versus seeing a match between Man United and another team.
It's quite
like
soulless.
Two different, completely different experiences.
Yeah, it's pretty soulless if you think we're going to take away the human factor from a human thing.
Yeah.
Sport is a human thing. You're looking at people's physicalities. If you take away all of the human factor from that, it becomes a robotic war. That's not, I think, what people want to watch.
So how I mean, we roll back to what you said. How does that, I mean, so that has to change how we do training, right? I mean, you have to really define the boundaries of training from, I mean, guess the center point is, I mean, where you want to go, basically. But then you have to train it to how much of the human element do you want to add into the training?
Yes.
Or
yeah, how do you create room for interpretation, ambiguity within a model that is very much set on
you
data
allow
science?
errors?
I think you have to. I think if you don't allow errors, well, do we call it errors or do we call it opinions?
Okay, yeah.
You know,
Opinions are the right way of saying it.
yeah. We don't want to introduce errors. I think we want to introduce opinions, or the ability for there to be opinions, so that we're not always providing information through the lens of one right or wrong. We were talking earlier about the ChatGPT challenge with searching for other new models. When searching in ChatGPT for some other providers, depending on the model you search for, it just doesn't have the data. It just says that this very well-known brand just doesn't exist. Well, it does. It very much does. We've all heard it on the news. It definitely does exist. So if we're not allowing those models to potentially make wrong decisions, how does that model evolve? Does it stay static? Are we just going to pre-program binary rule making?
Because that's how, I saw somebody they wrote an article about art. I've had a lot of, I love art. I think it's fantastic because you meet these people that makes these kind of art pieces where you think, where the hell did that come from, right?
Yeah.
It's really, really great stuff. And then somebody said, well, yeah, but AI and the Indians can take that over. And I think that's very difficult because the training will have to allow so many different opinions inside the training that you have to make more different opinions than you really have to train the core of it. Making a painting is easy, right? You can go today and ask any OpenAI engine to do it, right? And you get what could be defined as art, but not real art because you're not allowing the weird thinking.
Well, it hasn't got the emotional basis.
Okay, so it's emotional.
Well, it's a different type of intelligence, isn't it? If we equate intelligence to amount of knowledge gathered, then Google is infinitely intelligent than I am. Yes. But has Google, the machine, had the same experiences in life that I have? Absolutely not. Does it need to? I think that depends on who's interacting with it. But if you're looking at art specifically, there's an amount of human emotion that's brought into how that artist has created that thing. If that's purely generated by a machine, there's no lead up into that. There's no other contributing factors. It's a philosophical point, isn't it? Not a technical point.
No, but I think philosophy it's always the ground for where we're going with technology. It's like people are so focused on the technology in itself, and we'll come back to that when we talk about what you're doing in Stelia. But they always, it comes back to the fundamentals of us as human beings on how we adopt the technology. Because my point is that I think the problem right now, if it's a problem, is that the rate of technology is coming faster and faster, right? So what used to take 10 years in adoption rate is now 5, maybe 3, maybe 1.
Yeah.
And that's an issue because sometimes you need to allow yourself to breathe, right?
Yeah, there's a definite amount of exhaustion coming from new tech adoption. You're seeing that in the AI market specifically, the rate of change and innovation. Even we talk to the consumer side of who's actually using all of this resource. Even they are sort of catching up and falling over their feet to try and adopt the latest thing. The whole market's been in a frenetic bubble for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We do see the signs of that flattening out now and becoming a little bit more stable. As we see the next wave coming through, I think because the volume in that wave will be so much bigger, they will start asking some of the better questions about how they're going to use this and how the market will come.
And that's where I got the Napster moment when I talked to you the first time, was the aha thing about how do we stop these waves coming so fast, where some companies in the world, NVIDIA is one of them, right? I think NVIDIA is a great company, but they're also pushing really, really hard on technology. So the time in between the next GPU and the next GPU is getting, they just shortened their time to market, right?
Yeah.
With 1/3, I think they went from 36 months to 12 months on next generation. But that's kind of like the foundation of what we talked about initially the first time, is that you kind of creating a model where you are allowing computation on different generations of GPUs, right?
That's correct, yeah. It's not just NVIDIA as well, it's every other...
Yes, everybody.
Every other silicon manufacturer is thinking about the same challenges. How do you make something bigger, smarter, smaller form factor, less power, more distributable, easier to access? I think NVIDIA are the driving force in step change innovation currently. They've got the market thinking about this challenge. But I think there's some very smart companies now thinking about how to modularize, shrink the tech, make it more powerful, and also to right size it too. There are certain environments where you definitely do need massive horsepower, but at other times it's not necessarily the right tool for the job.
So let's explain a little bit more so people understand what it's all about. So for some applications, you need the newest tech as fast as you could possibly get it, but most can just do a mix of it, right?
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, until now, most of the world of AI, though inference is a thing, most of the major workload has been in Gen AI or training models. Most of the largest clusters in the world exist for a single tenant or somebody doing a workload on that, be that a hyperscaler.
Single tenant for people means that we're just working on one job for whatever computation
it's
you
a
have
single
available.
customer. It's a hyperscaler, it's a social media platform, it's a mathematics research business. They have exclusive and complete use of that asset in one location. Most of the world's AI utilization, by percentage, is very much based around that Gen AI workload piece. But we all know that as this market evolves and matures, that's not the long-term position of what AI will really be used for. It becomes the integration of all of that knowledge and all of those platforms into the world of enterprise and everything that we touch on a daily basis. And when we look at that utilization, that trickle-down flow, then it's much more about what's the right resource in the right location at the right time with the right power requirements, and can I turn it on and off at high frequency? As in, can I have one big ubiquitous resource pool that can actually put what I need where I need it at the right time?
So it basically means that going from single tenant to multi-tenant is that on multi-tenant you can basically just slice up the apple and just put it wherever it's best or most interesting or needed for computation.
So I haven't found a better term for it yet. I need to think about it more. But multi-tenancy for me very much screams public cloud, legacy cloud language. Because, and I know it's unpopular, but if we think about how a modern or a brand new today AI or machine learning startup would interface with that, they're not so much looking for multi-tenancy, they're looking for access to a resource pool that is inherently multi-tenanted already. They're not consuming or thinking about the problems of setting up segmented clouds and different VPCs and guardrails. They just want the thing, or this AI platform, to do all of that for them out of the box. So yes, it has to be multi-tenanted as such, but it's expressed through a different, more dynamic means than just setting up individual cloud instances.
Isn't the way to explain it is that you can take let's talk about what to call it afterwards, but you can basically take a piece of iron, GPU, several GPUs, and then you can just give access to whoever wants access to it, right? And then kind of like it can go up and down. So if you need more, we just give you more through the clusters. Meaning a cluster is several GPUs, maybe even in several destinations, right? They don't have to be all of them in the UK, they can be everywhere, right?
Correct. And we're talking to middleware companies now. We define middleware as the companies who are developing using AI for their product.
Yeah.
So interactive fitness mirrors.
But they don't necessarily support this.
They are coming to us at the minute with a demand to do this. So they're saying, I've got this company that produces interactive fitness mirrors, but 100% of my business is based on a GPU cluster in one country, in one state, in one place.
Correct.
But my audience is global. And that brings about a whole set of new challenges. Data sovereignty, segmentation of data, where the resource is, consumer access, consumer experience. All these problems are new for the AI world. Public cloud solved that years ago, but the AI world has not got to that level of maturity yet.
And I mean, the problem in that is basically that the world is not set up for it.
No.
And that's where you need good lawyers.
Yes, very good lawyers, very good
very
accountants.
expensive lawyers, right?
They are, yeah. Yeah, and
because of
taxation, goods movement, all of those problems. And this is, we think all the time in the world that's not technology about boundaries. We think about different states, different countries, different currencies. We constantly put things back in different boxes again. But technology doesn't work that way. It knows no boundaries unless we give it defined boundaries. Even with the major public clouds, they have to physically segment infrastructure to create those boundaries. So if left as one resource pool, tech will just work as one globalized resource if configured that way. So then we're dealing with two challenges. We're dealing with the fact that technology inherently wants to be one resource pool or will work that way, but we as human beings aren't quite ready for that yet. And there's lots of future status thinking about, what will AI currencies look like? Well, what will AI data laws look like? I mean, everyone's thinking about that right now, but no one's really got an answer to it yet.
It's difficult to solve, right? Because you have to, governments really have to work together to fix it.
They do.
I mean, it hasn't made it easier to live in the UK, right? Because you're not.
No.
I'm not trying to teach you, but
No,
I mean, that's an actual problem.
It's way harder.
If it's way harder, and it's simply because that when you move goods out of the UK into EU, right?
Yeah.
That's solved. But if you want to move it back, that makes it really, really difficult.
It's difficult always. I mean, even if you're a UK company bringing goods in from Europe with the final destination being the US, try moving goods directly from Europe to the US as a UK company now. Not even handling it. No. It's just complicated always around.
Yeah. And then if you add Asia, China, or different locations, Middle East.
Yeah, and now with new US sanctions as well on certain locations, it just gets harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
So we are constantly trying to segment technology back again in sort of states or sovereign zones. But I think that we'll see a recarving of the technology state landscape in the next 5 years because the demands on infrastructure will change.
So it could be that actually laws and regulations around, just normal stuff will actually set boundaries for how fast we can develop technology.
Eventually, yes.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. It's a very different world.
We're leaving it up to the politicians to kind of solve the big scenarios.
Yeah, and I think the freight train of technology change will continue. But if lawmakers eventually change what's possible and what's legislated to be able to happen, then we'll either limit or hold back, or we will restrain what technology can do as a material impact. Like, there's loads of squeamish areas of tech. Like, people don't like AI in health tech particularly. That's a massive area. But it's one of those areas that has real meaningful human change if we were to let AI have free rein to medical records, historical data about disease control. The power that has to affect human change is massive, but people don't like it because it means access to personal data.
Yeah.
Even with anonymizing it, people are still squeamish about it.
So there's one big thing going on right now. I would like to have your 5 cents on it, where you basically encrypt all of your data, and then you are capable of doing encryption on top of, you're doing computation on top of encrypted data. That will kind of solve those things, right? Where you can deliver personal data, but it's encrypted, but you can still put a GPU on top of it.
Yeah, I think I get the intention behind how that happens. In reality, that's interesting to understand more about.
It's very difficult, by the way.
It is difficult. Well, it depends on what type of encryption. But yeah, it's inherently difficult, yes. I think we get to a point where we ask why. So if we're creating payload data, where there's something inside it that I need to understand in order to do a task, then there has to be a reason or a way for us to anonymize that to allow the machine to see the data.
Yes.
But that's sort of like governed control about how much you're willing to share without it being encrypted. And there's lots of people now taking data and working the other way to actually, we're gonna make it unencrypted, but also anonymized. I'm gonna create an anonymous database. I no longer know what your name is. I know roughly how old you are, roughly where you are in the world, whatever else I know about your family background. I don't know that it's you. You're just a number now. And training models based on that anonymized data is allowing some companies to have huge strategic and operational advantages.
Let's talk about the most important thing, motorcycles.
Absolutely.
My passion for Ducati. We recently did a podcast on Ducati. I think it's soon coming out if it hasn't come out yet. But the question was about why are they so good at developing motorcycles, cars in Italy, and he said it's because of we have the same approach to love, food, and wine. That we try to make everything perfect, right? And I think that's a very good way of explaining why they are so good at building motorcycles, especially the Ducatis are. They're kind of, I think there are other motorcycle brands out there that are pretty good, but they're kind of.
Yeah, I think Ducati's really thought about what it feels to experience riding it. I mean, they've got great brand experience, but I think it's more about the personalized rider experience. So you have the best brand in the world, getting the nicest car ever, but it can be awful to drive. Ducati very much thinks about, what's it like for the rider on this? Because riding a bike is a very solitude singular piece, isn't it? It's just you and the bike, that's it. There's nothing else going on.
It's very egoistic.
Yeah, so you've got a single interface. It's not like I was sitting in a car with 5 people, it's just you. I think what Ducati's nailed is that experience for the rider and the machine.
I mean, I think that comes through all products. It can even be kind of like your product or AI. It's like we come up with that feeling of you can really see that it's really, really good engineering behind it. I think it's so easy to spot.
Yeah, Ducati's pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, are you using the same philosophy in your company now?
Absolutely, and it's something that we've had to learn as well. I had to evolve into. Every company says they want great service, but to actually deliver that in a market moving this fast is really hard. Some of the things we've seen is, so many of the companies in the AI space are inherently not technical. And our exec team and our whole business has come from a very deep tech background. We've all got hyperscale expertise, we've all got networking expertise, we've got heads of AI in other companies. We've got a very strong team. And then when we go and talk to lots of the other people that are deploying AI resource, they're not necessarily that technical yet. Some are, if they've grown up with HPC, or they've come out of that space. But if they come out of the crypto space or dedicated hosting space, this is trying to operate what would be a supercomputer at a global scale. These resources are inherently complex. Yes. They're not easy to operate and build, but there's lots of people that are doing it without necessarily all the experience to do so. So a lot of our time has been spent trying to educate and talk to people about the challenges. If we keep thinking about AI being in one building, in one place, we've missed the point of what's coming next. And that market education piece has been something we've been working really hard on for the last 2 years.
We could talk for hours, but really, I do appreciate you taking the time. It's been great, as always, to talk to you. Thank you, Tobias, for coming.
Thank you.
All right.
Lenovo.